Hello everyone and welcome back to another Black Desert video. So today I wanted to do an interesting video that surprisingly had a lot of requests, and people ask me this quite often: which items you should keep and which ones you should throw away for beginners. Now, as we all know, in Black Desert there's a lot of items, so I can't cover literally everything. I made a little bit of a list of things you would see on a regular, so for the sake of not having like a 3-hour video, I just made a list of, a couple of things that I think everyone is going to be seeing, and stuff that I think are notable. And over the past few years, they've kind of simplified how all the items are stored. So for example, the currency tab for a lot of event items is one thing they changed, which I think is overall good. But there are still items that are not stored in here, and that people, especially beginners, will not know how to, use properly, or have no idea what it actually does. So let's talk about that. As we all know, there's a lot of items that are also used for enhancing that people are like, should I sell it? Should I hold on to it? And we're going to talk about that today. So number one, we're going to be talking about Laila's Petals. This is something that every player is going to see throughout their BDO career. And even though it tells you what it does, some people might not actually fully understand what it is. So first of all, what do Laila Petals do? They exchange for either magical powder, which is this thingy. It recovers alchemy stones. Sealed fairy wings, which is basically the RNG roll for a tier 1 to a tier 4 fairy, and that's what you should be using it for. Or fairy's blessings, which is the equivalent of a Valk's Cry. So for all of you who do not have a fairy already, I believe there's a quest that you could do that will basically give you one for free and teach you the tutorial of how it works. But then once you do that, you can keep re-rolling with Laila's Petals to get the sealed fairy wings, and then you just hope for the best. And I have a video basically going over how to go about getting a tier 4 fairy with the best skills and everything. So to keep this video short, or this topic, I'll just leave a link in the description if you care about watching that. Holy, that's loud, by the way. And so we talk about basically best skills, which one should you focus on, and what each skill does, which one's a priority. All right, so next, well, actually, before we wrap that up, I would say Laila's Petals, use them to turn into the 2 seal one with the exchange 2 for the seal wings. Keep rolling for a tier 4 and hope for the best. And if not, we teach you how to go for the tier 4 and best skills anyway. Next thing I want to talk about is Yona Fragments. So this is something that you will probably see and use, but they're not something you use on a regular. So how do you get these? Grinding spots in Valencia that drop them, and also melting down yellow accessories. So basically it tells you just melt down yellow accessories, you get various Yona fragments. And I do believe these are used in a way to create accessories again, but it also is used, I believe, in adventure journals and some crafting recipes, which I don't remember off the top of my head. But the best use of them, if you have them, is, I don't remember which jewelry crafter. One of them is let me see. Yeah, the jewelry crafter. You use these Yona fragments, and then you can create the one that you want. I would recommend choosing the one that has the highest value, but I believe if you look at all of these, probably in the current day as of recording, the highest ones are probably Kadri rings or crescents. Just choose the one that's the highest on the market if you're planning on getting the Yona's fragments to sell it. And that's about it. So other than that, various crafting recipes or turn it into accessories to sell it. Either way, something you should consider doing. Otherwise, just hold on to it. Maybe they'll do something in the future. The next thing I want to talk about while we're talking about fragments is memory fragments. This is an item that new players probably won't be using as much, but at the end game, you are using a lot of them. So memory fragments are used to repair your gear. It doesn't matter if it's like whatever gear that has durability, chances are you're using memory fragments on it. Now, as a newer player, you're like, oh, I could get, what, 4 million silver for each of them? And I would say it depends on where you're at in the game, because if you just like collect literally thousands of them and you don't actually need it, you could actually get gear upgrades by selling them. But just know that eventually there's a chance you're going to be needing it at the end game, because certain gear you still have to enhance eventually. So this is a tricky one to talk about. And it's like, if you're at a stage of the game where you don't need them, you could just sell them, get your upgrades, and you'll be fine. But just know that later on, you're going to probably either buy them back or, you know, you're going to need them. So that's one of those things that only you can pretty much determine. I would honestly say that if you don't need them, just sell it, get the upgrade, repeat. Memfrags are pretty easy to get these days. They give them out for rewards quite often. And so, yeah, I personally use them, but not everyone enhances. All right, the next thing we're going to be talking about is sealed black magic crystals and magical shards. These are essentially the same items, but they have two different effects. The sealed black magic crystal is like an RNG crystal. You open the thing and it gives you one of like, what, 15 or something choices of a black magic crystal. And I think in 2025, the reason why people use these crystals is to turn them into magical shards. These are used in a lot of different crafting recipes and or turning into like high-end crystals. So there's a lot of uses from beginner all the way to end game. And if you're a new player just collecting them, kind of like memory fragments, it's like if you don't need it, then you can just sell it. But eventually you're going to be needing a lot of magical shards, and these are what you use to convert them into the shards. So yeah, eventually at endgame, for example, let me show you. You see all of these things? They all essentially use magical shards, and they create different amounts or different kinds of crystals that you would use in your actual gear slots. So a lot of these, unironically, are best in slot crystals. So if you don't already have them, like the crystal setup for your gear and everything, you should probably use them to make it. But once you're already established and have everything, it's a good idea to sell them. But once again, it's a little bit tricky because I don't know where you're at in the game. So for me, sometimes I hold them, and it also depends on prices of crystals. Like, keep in mind, you factor in like 50 of these, that's probably like up to 4 mil each, so almost 200 mil. Depending on the crystal you're making, that could be profit or just sell these. So it's one of the things that require a little bit of basic math to figure out what you should do with them. But when in doubt, if you don't have it, you just save them, and you might need a crystal in the future. The next thing we're talking about is dust and Caphras stones. So this thing, ancient spirit dust and Caphras stones. So dust, you can see on screen in the tooltip, you basically 5 dust and 1 black stone equals 1 Caphras stone. Caphras stones are basically used at the end game to upgrade your gear. So for, I guess, people in the middle of the gear chart, you're going to be using like Pen boss gear, get it to Caphras 10, convert it into Fallen God. Everyone who does PvP, you're going to be putting it into your Kudum and Nuver before you get Black Star. And then Nuver is just Nuver. There's nothing further than that right now. And Caphras stones are also used to basically create more enhancing materials. So like if you're enhancing Black Stars, Sovereign weapons, and all that stuff. So these have a lot of uses, but it's not always useful to beginner players as much as they are to intermediate to end game players. So my suggestion is to you, I would probably say if you're at the beginner, you could sell it and then get your upgrades, but just know you're going to need them later. If you're at the intermediate level, you should probably just save them. And then end game, you're probably going to need it because enhancing Sovereign is not the easiest thing. You don't need a lot of them, but you still need some of them to craft primordial stones. And, you know, if you do a lot of enhancing, chances are you're probably going to be using them. So it's a good idea to stock up a little bit, maybe keep a, 1,000 or 2,000, and then see where it goes from there. So yeah, Ancient Spirit Dust, something that everyone is going to be seeing. Convert it into Caphras stones, and then either save it or sell it depending on where you're at in the game. So another one that's a little bit less of a use is Traveler's Map. These essentially allow you to travel from wherever you're at to the nearest town or safe zone. And these are essentially good for, getting yourself from point A to B pretty quickly, especially if you have a slower horse, which in 2025, everyone has a tier 9 and or a tier 10. And essentially, it's less of a problem now. But it is useful for beginner players. And even, sometimes I use them every now and then. Because, let's say you just finished your grind, right? And you're just like, okay, so I just want to go back to town, pop a Traveler's Map, go back to town, sell your stuff. Very cool. These have a 6-hour cooldown. There's also a permanent one, the Archaeologist Map, which is essentially the same thing, but it shares a different cooldown timer, and you could teleport yourself to town and back, which is the treasure item version, which is actually very useful. I should go for that one day. But a lot of other things to do. So I would recommend holding on to some of these. They're not really expensive. They just kind of, exist. And yeah, I haven't looked at them in a while. Apparently the price went up a lot, but you don't really need that many. Just hold on to them and you'll just get more over time. Useful to have. And next thing I want to talk about is all the different scrolls we get. XP scrolls, loot scrolls, life scrolls, and everything else. So, if you haven't already, do the quest that unlocks the family inventory. By default, I think it only gives you like 4 slots. You could do a few quests to get a few more, and then the rest of it is you buy it through pearls and everything. I believe that your family inventory is actually something that's very important. Everyone should do the quest to unlock it. And the items I would recommend putting in here are things you would use on multiple characters, such as scrolls, elixirs, believe it or not, infinite potions are probably the most important thing, because what they allow you to do is you put your infinite potions in your family inventory, and they also connect with this thingy. So you see this little crown square icon? This means it's in your family inventory. So you see like the little icons at the bottom in my quick slots. Let me just show you. So like these things, the little like square on the top, it means that it's in your family inventory. So a lot of these things, if you grind on the regular life skill, which is, literally the entire game, PvP, if you play the game, put the things you would use on multiple characters in there. High priority items being infinite potions. If you do like role playing and you do a lot of screenshots, the chair, and then, probably your life scrolls. Do you even need all these slots? No. I think a lot of them are helpful. You can also put Elian's tiers in here as well, and they count towards everything, so you never have to remember it. So those are high priority in my opinion. And then after that is, whatever else you think you need. So yeah. Even if you haven't bought anything or you're like free to play, the important of like the 4 or 6 slots that you get for doing this, I'd recommend infinite potions, some tiers of Elion, and anything that you use the most. Everything else, if you have a fairy, you can just keep it in your inventory and set it. If you use continuous care, which we talked about in our Laila's Petals thing earlier, and fairies, you can just have your presets set up for everything. And I think that's helpful. So there's probably a lot more items that I could cover, but for the sake of not making a very long video, I just wanted to talk about those because I think those are the most common items that people will see. And if you want to see a part 2 eventually, drop a like on the video. Let me know you guys actually like this one. And if you're new, hit that subscribe button. I would love to see you guys come back. So a little bit about me, if you are new to the channel, is I've been playing this game since it came out on NA, which was apparently 2016, almost 9 years from now. And over the years, I've just, learned to play this game, and I like making videos to help players get better at this game, whether you're a beginner or just looking to get better, returning player, so on. And that's what my videos do, and that's about it. So if you have any questions, drop in the comments. Happy to point you guys in the right direction. And I'm out for today, so I'll see you guys later. Peace.